This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast, Jim Cornette and Matt Hardy have a huge back and forth tit for tat on Twitter this week. Is LA Knight really just a ripoff of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock? AEW has banned several moves and spots and require a handful of others to get permission. We'll break down all of that. And should pro wrestlers have to qualify for a license to perform? I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Podcast. It's your boy, Seth Grimes, and I am back, and my vacation took a whole lot longer than I thought it would take, and I apologize for those that like to listen on a weekly basis. Fucked up my pinky, too, by the way. Look at that shit. I got a bum pinky. Gotta keep it in this thing for like 6 to 8 weeks still. So it makes it hard at the beginning of the show. I do the Pro Wrestling Podcast, and now my pinky's in the air because I can't bend it. I'll have to maybe switch hands, or maybe I'll just do it like this. I don't know. Just be fancy with it. Like I drink my tea all fancy and stuff now, so it works out. It doesn't hurt or nothing. It's just a pain in the ass, and you got to work around it. And you don't care about that. You didn't come here for that. But I'm glad to be back. Just to be real with you, look, man, I decided to take like a week off. Like the podcast that week particularly did not excite me. There wasn't a lot of news breaking or anything like that. And look, it's hard to talk about like, oh, Wardlow's growing out his fucking man bun again, and who he looked up to as a child, or fucking does Arn Anderson have any lint in his belly button? Like, it's hard to make a show out of stuff like that. So I decided to take the week off, and then as I did it, it was like, you know what? Like, it was refreshing, and I realized I was kind of burnt out, you know, as much as I love doing this show, and I love hanging out with you guys, love talking wrestling. This is always going to be a passion of mine, and this is always a show that I'm going to do. But look, when it becomes a chore, and it does sometimes, even the things you love the most can become monotonous and laborious and a chore at times. And to avoid burnout, I'm going to take a couple weeks off here and there. Look, I haven't had a week off since Christmas, barring, you know, maybe being sick or something. I think there was some time I had in the spring, I had COVID. I took a week off, but look, man, I mean, I like to be here, but, you know, burnout's a real thing. And this is not my livelihood. I hope it is someday, and I got to keep working towards that. But until then, if I need to take a break, I'm going to take a break. But I will always come back to you, and I'll always keep you posted on the Facebook, the Twitter, the TikTok. Twitter, I got to use more. What about Threads? You guys on Threads yet? Is that a thing still that you guys like already, or no? I hear they're banning a lot of people. They probably wouldn't even want my show on there because I say fuck. I say fuck a lot. What do you guys think when I get monetized? Are they going to demonetize me for my F-bombs? Do I got to stop opening the show with, what the fuck is up? I don't know. If you act your ear off enough, I just missed you guys. I'm updating you and talking, and it's good to be able to talk to somebody like this again. Talk to my wrestling people. Look, you didn't come here for me. You came here for the clips, the highlights of the show. This one will probably be a little bit shorter than normal, you know, just kind of dipping my toe back in. Don't want to jump right into anything huge. So I haven't pulled too many clips, but look, these are kind of fascinating clips that I did pull. And who knows, I might get to talking and ranting on them, and it might end up being a long show anyway. But strap yourself in if you're a full show listener. Buckle the fuck up, and let's jump right into our first topic here today. So it was our good old buddy Sean Ross Sapp who had broke the news this week that apparently an internal memo had gone around in AEW with a whole big list of banned moves and spots, and then a whole nother separate list of moves and spots and scenarios and gimmicks and things that would need to be cleared with the office before it was done in the ring. Essentially, guys are not able to just go out there and do whatever the fuck they want anymore. No, this is starting to stir up a lot of talk and gossip online. A lot of people are overreacting about this. A lot of people are getting carried away. A lot of misinformation is being spread around. So to get the details straight from the horse's mouth and not spread any misinformation myself, let's go ahead and take a look at the clip from Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful Select, Fightful's YouTube channel. He did this here video to clarify exactly what is on the list, and then I will catch you on the backside to give my thoughts and breakdown, and we'll kind of talk about this, the good, the bad, because there is a little bit of both, and we'll dive into it. Check out this clip.
Now, I'm going to read you directly from the document that I saw. It says, AEW health and safety protocols relating to matches. The health and safety of our talent, staff, crew, and fans are paramount importance to AEW. Our medical team, coaches, and referees have developed the following protocols to ensure that our matches are performed as safely as possible. We know there's some risk in professional wrestling performances, but our objective is to ensure that we minimize the risk without compromising the quality of performances and our talent's ability to be creative. More simply put, AEW seeks to perform all stunts and spots as safely as possible. To that end, please review the following protocols. If you have any questions, please ask any member of our coaching staff, medical staff, or legal team. Please respect your coaches, referees, and team medical, all of whom are working to try to keep you safe and healthy. It then says the following moves are not allowed under any circumstances. These are prohibited for your safety, safety of the staff and crew, safety of our fans, and compliance with laws and venue requirements. And it says this is not a comprehensive list and can be modified as appropriate by medical, legal, and the coaching staff. And it says advanced planning really helps. We would love to be able to say yes to creative stunts and spots, but generally need time to find ways to plan them. Get any required safety equipment. For example, if we want to break glass, we would need time to get the appropriate glass and get any required permits. If you have an idea, please talk to a coach, talent relations, team medical, or team legal as early as possible. So let's break this down. Got a lot of questions in here. If you want them answered, we've got super.
All right, so that was the down and dirty from Sean Ross Sapp on this, and like I said, it's getting a lot of controversy about this. So let's go in and break it down. Let's take a look at a list over here. Pulling this list from whatculture.com, so shout outs to them for supplying the content. Looks like they're saying here, so let's start with the banned moves. Unprotected chair shots to the back of the head, or to the head in general. Any shot to the back of the head, so elbows and stuff. I'm sure like the finishers, like Adam Cole's gimmick, or the fucking Judas effect, if that catches the back. Stuff like that. I think are going to be just fine. I think it's more of strikes and that sort of thing. Or at least maybe they'll get blanket clearance because they are finishers. But chair shots, can we all agree that chair shots have... Chair shots to the head, especially unprotected. Does it specifically say unprotected chair shots to the head? So you can even put your hands up. We should all be in agreement for this. If not, you're stupid, because just so something looks cool for you, just so you can go, oh, that was sweet, is not worth somebody having brain damage for the rest of their life. As cool as it is, and as appreciative as I am with all the ECW stuff in the past, the Balls Mahoney chair shots, all these tough bastards that did it for the team, that took one for the team, as far as even Cody Rhodes at the beginning of AEW when he took that that errant gimmicked chair from Sean Spears. They gimmicked the chair so that it would give and then just look bad, and fucking Spearsy hit him with like the frame of it instead of like the giveaway part. Busted him fucking nasty one wide open. So look, man, that's why, and this is causing long-term brain damage. So there's absolutely no reason that we need to sit and have any kind of tolerance for fucking unprotected chair shots to the head. Get your hands up. That's fine. It's a work anyway. That's part of what it is. It's not how tough are we? Can we take the bumps for real? It's how can we make this look like an exciting back and forth fucking main event brawlski without actually hurting each other, for real, long term. So I'm on board with that, and I'm on board with the just no shots to the back of the head. There's nothing wrong with that. Buckle bombs, look, Stinger fucking, we've seen buckle bomb instances. Remember Finn Balor also took the buckle bomb to the rail. When he won the Universal title for the first time ever. He was the first ever Universal champion, if anybody remembers that. But he had to vacate it. He lost it right away because he fucking buckle bombed into the thing. Sting with the whiplash. Look, it causes a whiplash effect. I'm not a wrestler, but I mean, I've been in a ring, and those shits are dangerous. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing to take those kind of spots. Like I used to be like a general manager, a commissioner, right? So I got my ass beat. I took lots of bumps, I got put through a table, all that shit. But those are like spots, it's one fall. They teach you real quick, the guys will be like, here's what you do. You'll do this, and bada bing, bada boom. But when you're having full back and forth matches like that, where you got to constantly be aware and you're tired and exhausted, and now you're getting thrown backwards, and even you see those fucking, the one that, what's the move that, Sami does. Sami Zayn does it all the damn time. It's the like the exploder suplex into the corner or whatever, where they're basically just dropped on their head and they're so close to the back of the buckle. There's no reason to do that. I don't know if that's the exploder or what that's called, but you know what I'm talking about. There's no reason for that kind of shit. We don't need it for our entertainment. I'm sorry. I'm not sad about any of these so far. And if you are, you just think, oh, they should just be able to do whatever they want. Look, I get that to an extent too. Trust the wrestlers, right? Trust the professionals. Wrestlers know what they're doing, or think they know what they're doing most of the time, should know what they're doing, but maybe not always. And when you're as big of a company as AEW, and there's lawsuits to be had, and you're trying to secure TV rights, and you want to keep a good, professional, family-friendly image, and blah, 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 you just don't need people ending their careers in the ring and getting injured and all that nasty shit that can happen. Let's just not even go there if we can help it. I'm fine with that. Fencing responses, which are unnatural positions of arms following a concussion. So when you look all rigor mortis out, or you do that, or your seizuring was another band there that's there. Seizure cells, spitting, bleeding in the crowd. Let's go back to the selling of the seizures and stuff. I think that's the Daniel Bryan rule, as I think Brian Alvarez pointed out. He was going through, and they were naming, they're calling it by everybody that's fucking it up, right? All these people that are breaking these rules, that are causing these rules to be handed down. Look, man, I don't know. That's a fine line, because you're trying to tell stories too, and it's a combat sport, and I don't know that we can just be having all these brutal matches, but everybody's fine and perfectly healthy the next day. And, Danielson, look, he had a seizure at one point. That's kind of public knowledge from his concussions. The idea here is that it offends people. People are too sensitive to it nowadays, is really what it boils down to. They're like, oh, that could happen for real. That's not funny. Come on. We are simulating combat sports here. So if it could happen for real, then it should be fair game in the storyline. Is it tasteful? I'm not arguing that it's tasteful. You can be offended by it, but to outright ban it, I'm a little iffy on that one. That one, at the very least, should maybe be one that needs approval. I think Sean Ross Sapp had said that in his breakdown as well. That's fair, maybe get approval for that. Don't be doing that shit all the time, but I don't know that should be outright banned. Spitting or bleeding into the crowd, my God, yeah, that's gross. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. I always cringe when guys are bleeding out in the crowd and they fling their hair, and you'll see blood splatter on people in the crowd. You'll even see people react to it. They're like, thankfully, most of us wrestling fans are fucking freaks and weirdos, and we're probably all like, you know what I mean? We're trying to save it in a little fucking glass thing like Dexter does, right? Sell it on the internet and trying to make fucking little hybrid John Moxley babies or something. Okay, I've taken this way too far. Taking this too far. Let's take it a step back. Spitting and bleeding in the crowd is gross. I'm fine with it. Spitting probably shouldn't even happen around the ring because that's gross. Yeah, I think it says that. Spitting is, and then comma, bleeding in the crowd, not spitting and bleeding. So yeah, spitting just outright. Nobody wants to go out there and fall and take a bump in your spit loogie, man. And even if the wrestlers are okay with it, heat of battle, right? Wrestlers will it's fine, I guess, whatever, if they're willing to bump and roll around in it. But what about the referee? Poor Aubrey Edwards has to get down on there and what if she has to fucking slide down to get that count and her plant hand fucking goes right in your loogie? That's disgusting. It's disgusting, guys. Knock it off. And it's gross to even watch on TV when people do that shit. There's people spit all over the ring if you watch that. It happens quite a bit. Not so much anymore, but go back and watch old tapes. You'll see lots of spitting in matches and stuff. They just on the mat while they're working. Not even part of selling or anything. Anyway, moving on. Weapons or projectiles in the crowd. Yeah. Why be flinging a weapon around in the crowd where it could plausibly hit somebody else? We can try to trust our professionals and know that they're pros and look, these guys know what they're doing. They're not going to hurt anybody, but accidents happen. Look, Terry Funk's one of the most professional men of all time. But when Terry Funk had that fucking thing where that match in ECW where the flame came off the flaming 2x4 or whatever and ended up on somebody in the crowd. Yeah, man. Not good. Accidents happen. It's not that you don't trust your professionals. It's that accidents happen. And these are designed to mitigate legal risks, clearly. This is probably handed straight down from legal. Tony Khan probably, Mega's number 2 over in AEW, and she's illegal, And she's probably seeing some of this stuff and Tony, we're going to get sued someday. Or maybe they got a lawsuit, or maybe they've got enough lawsuits where they're okay, we got to, something either happened or somebody smartened up to the fact that something absolutely could happen if this kind of shit goes on. So legal probably came up with a list of things that could plausibly get them in trouble. There's word that maybe even Warner Brothers Discovery has an influence on this. They could be partnering up, buddying with AEW a little bit closer here. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit later in more detail. But it sounds like, they're having more of a vested interest in AEW, and this could be stuff that their legal team has passed on. So who knows what heads have been put together to come up with this list, but clearly there's a reason for it, right? No projectiles in the crowd, safety for them. Taking drinks and food from guests in the crowd, the MJF rule, the tequila shit. Let's not do that. It's gross. I think somebody else said that they tried to drink somebody's beer and it was chew spit once. And let's just not. There's no reason to do that. It's fun to do. Didn't Hangman do that early on? Not chew spit, but he was drinking people's beers, and a lot of people do that. Used to do that. Why? It's not necessary, and it protects you. It's not so much oh, that's stupid. Why? It's why do we need to do it? And if it's a layer of protection from lawsuits or whatever else, bloodborne pathogens, poisonings, let's pay attention to it. Let's do it. Let's see. Physical contact with the crowd, same thing. Let's not touch the crowd. No touching of the crowd, no crowd touching of us. Certainly you'll see, like, when Moxley's walking through the crowd, guys will reach out and pat his back and reach down and give him a handy real quick. Do that off screen because we're on YouTube, but you know, right? Give him a little pre-match workout gimmick, if you know what I'm saying. But there's the guys that will, like, go out and they'll, like, steal a crowd member's hat. The MJF, he fucks with the fans all the time. Well, stop that. You're going to get sued if they haven't already. Clearly MJF was pushing the limits there on that. Nothing with blood on it should be thrown into the crowd is the other banned thing. So you can't, like, after the match, you see people undoing their wrist tape and kind of throwing that away or, whatever. Well, we're just trying to, it's the health and safety of the people. But let's dive a little bit deeper here because we got more to get into. And this is where more of the nuance and more of the concern and misinformation is coming in. So let's take a look at this list here, and this is going to be for the spots and bumps and stuff that need permission. They're not banned, they need permission. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Just to put a bow on the stuff that was banned, I'm okay with all of it, with the exception of, like, the selling. I think that could be approved, but other than that, all of that is fair to me. It's fair. Doesn't infringe on any of my creative freedoms or liberties. It's a fair ask, in my opinion. If you disagree, at me, bro, in the comments. Let's move on. Spots and bumps on the ring apron and outside the table. Tables, ladders, chair spots in and out of the ring, only allowed with padding. Let's pause there for a second. Scoozy. Spots and bumps on the ring apron, outside the ring, the hardest part of the ring. Have you ever been on a ring? It is the hardest spot. It's not a gimmick. It's because it's a frame. That's the fucking outside frame, and the posts hold it secure, and then there's fucking, like, wiring and stuff that kind of, like, the cabling that kind of holds it tight together too. So that holds that frame really tight, tough together. It's all kind of locked in. They slide into everything. It pieces together really well, so it locks in like a solid ass frame. So that base, there's zero give in that. The give is in the middle. Everything outside of the ropes where they're standing around, like, holding out for the tag and that kind of shit, you're taking bumps out there, bro. You're fucking, you're taking risks. Yeah, it's just that you're working on steel. On top of that, I will have you know, is that the padding that covers the ring, it's like everybody's seen this kind of padding. It's the same kind of padding that's outside the ring on the floor. It's the stuff like at your high school gym, that the girls that do the gymnastics do their somersault twists, flippy dippies on, and the wrestlers wrestle around. It's the same kind of shit, right? Those kind of pads to some extent, and just those 1 inch or so thick foam pads, right, with the hard, like, covering, so it's like a sweat proof or whatever. You get the point. So it's those, and then underneath that, it's the hardwood boards, and then steel frame, like whatever crisscross might be underneath there's like plankings that the boards, you kind of go, so like the steel frame, and then you're going to lay metal planks, say this way, and then the boards will go, here I'm off camera. Then the boards will go the opposite way, so you kind of crisscross them for the support. There's very little give is what I'm fucking saying to a ring to begin with, and those pads is where the give is. Those don't necessarily always stretch all the way over to the very edge of the ring. They're kind of designed to just be enough to fit inside the ring, don't you know? So especially if you're working on a really indie-rific ring, I would imagine a WWE and AEW ring have, significantly high quality. But you get the point. It is a hard part. So I guess I get getting permission was kind of stupid. Look, we talked earlier about allowing wrestlers to kind of trust themselves. They're the professionals. They know what they're doing. Sometimes they don't, and accidents happen. But for the fuck of for all fucks is what I'm trying to say. I'm not a wrestler. So if I'm a wrestler, if I'm one of these suits that's never been in the ring, and they have their producers and agents and stuff too in on this supposedly, to have their input, and they certainly have taken all these bumps, so they're a good opinion to get. But at some point, you got to allow the wrestlers to be creative too and do what they want to do. And this could, Sean Ross Sapp was very clear to say in his thing, and this is where it's causing a lot of drama and miscommunication and beef on the internet, is that Sean Ross Sapp says the vibe is very much, look, man, just run it by the agent. Just say, hey, this is what we're going to do in the match. And the agent will go, okay, yeah, sure. And then I think the agent's got to run it by Tony, and Tony's got to run it by legal, and then that's it. So it's got to cover all three of those. It's got to be run up the pole, which is, I guess, what does legal care about if you're taking a fucking power bomb out on the fucking ring apron? That's stupid, but whatever the fuck. I still think it's stupid, but Sean Ross Sapp makes it sound like these are 9 times out of 10 going to get approved. They just want to know that they're going to happen so they can take the proper precautions. Let Doc Samson know to be right there, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe, there's 4 other people that are going to take a ring apron powerbomb bump, and they don't want to overdo it on the show. You get the point, but I still think it's stupid. Only allowed with padding, tables, ladders, chair spots in and out of the ring. No, that's not going to be a crash pad, even though, the Jericho 6,000 crash pad that was for the blood and guts match, so they took the bump on. I don't believe that's not what they're talking about. That's not what this is going to turn into. This padding is going to be the padding on the ring and the padding around the ring. You're not going to be able to take these bumps out in the fucking off the fucking catch-up table out in the concession stands. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to leap off the balcony out onto the cement floor. They're putting the kibosh to that. And they're not even putting the kibosh to that. Just got to get it approved. Seems to be the case. Well, it does say only allowed with padding, so that's what that is. It's not. They're not gonna have crash pads and shit. They're not. Don't worry. Don't cry about it. Okay. They're gonna just fall in the ring, which is kind of padded, sort of, as we talked about. And the outside of the ring is the same. It's that 1 inch fucking. And that padding's stiff too. It's not like it's a pillow. It's not memory foam. It's a fucking. It's doesn't got a lot of give to it itself. It's there to be stood on and wrestled on and jumped on, and it's for sporting stuff. Elevated spots outside of the barricades, dives, ladder spots, stage around the arena. We kind of already touched on that. And those just need to get approved. So if you're gonna set up a spot like that, and look, we see it all the time. Where in Jungle Boy and somebody not too long ago, there was a dinosaur spot where the dinosaur choke slammed somebody, or maybe the dinosaur got bumped off or whatever, but you've seen it a million times anyway. They go through the table off the stage, but there's like crash pads underneath it or whatever. You get that gimmick, right? So it'll probably be stuff like that. Let's see here. The barricades, all pile driver, tombstone variations, sit downs, inverted, poison ranas, hurricane ranas, vertebreakers, high risk dives, top rope moves, etc. 450s, all of that shit. Let's break that down here for you. Pile driver's always kind of been a banned move. And AEW was kind of stood out at first, to be honest, because there were lots of pile drivers going on, because they were trying to say, hey, look, we can have pile drivers over here. WWE doesn't, But I think a lot of people were scared by that Kenny Omega spot, to be honest with you, with Will Ospreay. I think that Tiger Driver stirred up a lot of attention, and I think maybe Legal got scared by that. So I think that's where that's coming from. Maybe somebody spoke up about it. Some Karen of an agent might have said, wish you would have told us about that first. They just got to get it approved, says Sean Ross Sapp. This is not a ban. We're never going to see pile drivers again. They just want to know when they're going to happen. And maybe have the agents, specifically go, okay, now you got to took your, because even, a couple of people are talking about Shane Helms' Vertebreaker this week and how it's incredibly safe, but also incredibly dangerous. It's one of those things, like the Tombstone pile driver has been said to be, the pile driver in general has been said to be very safe. Now, I'll tell you, like I said, I've taken bumps before and stuff. I probably would not take a pile driver bump. I'd have to kibosh that no matter who was giving it to me because accidents happen. Tombstone, I think, is a little bit more forgiving unless you ask Hulk Hogan from the Tuesday night in Texas or Survivor Series, whichever one that was he was complaining about. It was the Survivor Series because when Taker tombstoned him to win the belt. Hogan says, Taker dropped him right on the chair, brother, and damn near broke my neck. And then you watch the replay, and Taker was fucking dropped. Hogan safely tucked between his upper thighs, right under his ball sack, fucking feet away from the chair. Those good old Hulk Hogan tall tales. Gotta love them. The 450s. But in general, the pile drivers and stuff, that's fine. Ban them. And they're not even banned. They just need special approval. I'm on board with that as long as they're not going to crack down and I don't even know. They probably should limit them because they're so devastating. You see them all the time. It waters them down. They're fun because they are so dangerous. But we'll see them. They're not banned. The 450s, double moonsaults, all that shit. The triple fucking flippy planchas. Fine. Basically everything Rey Fenix has to do is going to do in the match. They're just going to say no. Or they're going to have to get approval. Vikingo. Those were some of the things, too. Or some of these wrestlers, the way they work, they're not going to build the work. And Sean Ross Sapp, again, was very clear to say that he feels these are going to kind of get blanket approval. Same with Sting's bat, Jericho's bat, right? All these things are going to kind of just get blanket approval because it's part of their shtick. That's their repertoire, if you will. But I get that. These are potentially career-ending, life-threatening, neck-breaking injuries. So let's, at the very least, make sure we know when they're going to happen and make sure the agent takes an extra second to walk them through it, even if they already know. I know. Okay, I'm just telling you because we fuck it up out there. You're going to get fucked up. Intentional bleeding of any sort, not just blading. So this is going to cover your hard ways as well. This is the Jon Moxley rule, of course. It's just got to get approved. I think it should always have been like that anyway. I don't think these guys should just be out there just bleeding all over the place whenever the fuck they want to. I think that might be a Moxley thing. I think Moxley's just doing it in every match. Just give a fuck. Just gig it up. You know what I mean? These should always be approved. Not that there's anything unsafe about bleeding. I've also done that before. I've been cut open in a match before. Not in a match, but I've been cut open before in a pro wrestling context. It's not unsafe, but it should be pre-approved. They should know where it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and that the proper precautions are being taken. Kind of a broken record here. Let's see what else they got going on. Throwing people into, through, over ring steps. Commentary table, bell table, or guardrails, barricades. Let's pause there and kind of go over that. This is going to be a longer video here. I figured as much. I figured it would be because I'm going to have a lot of opinions on this. Buckle up, Buttercup. Hope you're not bored yet because it's just more of this. Let's break it down, though, because I don't know that I agree with that either. The stairs? You're going to fucking ban the stairs? Now, needs approval. It is not a ban. See, I'm doing the same thing that I was warning you guys about. Everybody getting all worked up for nothing. Just needs approval. I don't know that stairs needs approval, though. I think that's a bit much. I think that's overkill. Same with a table, a ringside table. Okay. I'll pause on that. The steps should not need approval. Look, man, the ring, the outside, anything inside the fucking railing barricades that separate the fans from the wrestlers should be the canvas that a professional wrestler gets to paint on. Wrestling is art. This is a wrestler's creativity. There is absolutely a line where a professional company needs to have its rules and protocols and protections in its favor to ensure the safety and security and all that, legal and all that. I get all that. But then there's some stuff that is an overreach, and I'm going to call it as I see it here. So far, I've been pretty kind to all of these. I'm going to piss on the stairs. There's no reason to do that. Now, why it did pause at the table, I was going to say the table, ringside tables and stuff should also be fair game. It's inside the guardrails, the barricades. It's there to be used. It's a prop. This is the canvas. But let's hold tight here for a second. First of all, is there another spot in a match going on later in the show involving the commentary table to where maybe we don't want to mess that up right now? 2, I've heard Jim Ross is a particularly grouchy fucker about that sort of thing, and this might actually be the Jim Ross rule. Jim Ross does not want to be touched at ringside. Apparently, he threw a fucking hissy fit about this recently, which is... It's funny. I love crotchety red-ass JR. I would keep JR around just to listen to him bitch about shit. He'd be in my inner circle, and I would just giggle every time he started bitching about something. I wouldn't listen all the time. I'm not going to yes, Jim, okay, we'll placate you. But I'd keep him around just to hear him. That's stupid. Throw a guy over the table. We're not even in the wrestling match. What's that got to do with in-ring competition? Sassafras. Barbecue sauce. But I will save. Thirdly, in Jim's defense, there are other people behind the bell ringers table. The ring announcer, Justin Roberts, he can take it like a man. But what about poor Dasha out there? Poor Dasha. The bell ringer guy, whoever does that, I think that's some of the timekeeper, and of course, the commentators. They don't need to be in the middle of something if they're not prepared for it or expecting it or know what to do in that situation. You don't want to just have somebody that's out there just slopping paint around because they're a painter on the canvas and they're just splashing it on, and it's getting over the edge of the canvas and stuff. Some people are sloppy painters, so they're trying to clean that up a little bit. I'm okay with that. I think they should be pretty okay with giving the green light on that. Just make sure that they're giving Dasha a heads up or making sure that the commentators are getting the notice, that kind of thing. And Jim Ross can, get all red-assed about it. Hey, Ross, we're going to break another commentary tonight. Goddamn. Stupid. What else do we got over here? Weapons usage. Chairs, pipes, kendo sticks, hammers, ring bells, bats, chains, etc. Title belts, thumbtacks, skewers, barbed wire, and other sharp, punctury, pokey objects. Powders, aerosol sprays or liquids. Throwing any weapons or objects, chairs, etc. Choking, strangling with hands or weapons or hanging spots. Injury spots or angles. We'll come back to that. Let's address all these weapons here first. Just approving a weapon spot is fine. I don't think they should be, and I don't think they will be. It doesn't seem like they would be. 2 wrestlers prominently bring bats to the ring all the time. I don't think this is going to be an issue. Brandon Cutler's got the spray. People, the Outcasts got the spray paint. Sheeta's got the kendo stick. They're not going to take these away from people. I just think they need to be cleared. They need to know what's going to be happening with them, if anything. I'm fine with that as long as they don't limit the usage. As long as they're just controlling the usage, I'm okay with that. It's fine. It's mostly for, I would even say, just so they know, again, can be prepared for what's going to happen, I guess, in general, but also to make sure it's not happening later on in the card. Thumbtacks, skewers, barbed wire. Skewers don't belong in wrestling anyway. I'm sorry to my deathmatch aficionado friends and fans that appreciate that kind of stuff. Those things that what's that dude Jun Kasai, the guy that John Moxley was wrestling with. You ever watch that fucker have a match? He uses those gusset plates and all of that. I get that there's a niche for that, and I'm not like I'm not wrestling shaming if you're into the extreme deathmatch stuff, the ultra violence. But to me, there's no place for it. I don't think it's needed. I really don't think I will ever feel bad if I never, ever see a skewer spot again in my life. It just doesn't. Barbed wire, yes. Thumbtacks, yes. I think those have worked their way into the... what's the word I'm looking for? They've worked their way into the... worked their way into the world of professional wrestling. There's a word that's completely escaping me at this moment. You're probably yelling it at me at this point, but that's fine. It's on the tip of my tongue, but we're live, pal. And when you're on the spot, you don't think of it right in the moment. So I'm still trying to think of it. That's why I'm but no, I get it. The fuck is that word? The zeitgeist, motherfucker. The motherfucking zeitgeist of professional wrestling. It's in the zeitgeist of professional wrestling at this point. Barbed wire, tables, thumbtacks, all of that shit. It's fine. You can pull it out from under the ring in video games. It's a part of wrestling. Skewers, not so much. I haven't seen skewers in WWE fucking 2K20 anything, so maybe we'll leave those ones out. But hey, that's just me. To each his own. Other sharp puncturing objects. Forks, perhaps? You fucking weirdos, Moxley and Hangman. Look, when I bled in the ring, it was actually from a fork. So I'm okay with fork spots. Those guys are like, eek, eek. I think they were just going. I mean, it didn't look like they were working it. That's for sure. Like, cool for you guys, I guess. Whatever. Tough. You're real tough and manly. You're just getting stabbed in the head with forks for real. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Choking, strangling with hands or weapons or hanging spots. The choking. This is the Justin Roberts rule here. No choking people without permission. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I don't know, like a bad guy can choke behind a referee's back. You do the thing where you let the wrist tape get loose, and then, with the referee, you hang the guy over the ropes, and you can kind of choke him on the ropes. Choke them with your wrist tape if it's dangling. Choke people with the tag rope. Like, look, man, like that shit's. I think that should be fair game. I don't know if that should be banned or even needing approval necessarily. But maybe choking with weapons or hanging spots, I can see that point of view, just to make sure safety protocol is in place. Injury spots or angles, we're almost done here, don't worry. Injury, you've heard all these, but I want to, you haven't heard my take on all of these. Injury spots or angles, whether or not medical is involved, called to the ring, any physicality in the crowd or crowd brawling, any physicality involving referees, managers, extras, celebrities, or special guests. So no Snoop Dogg people's elbows, I guess. No, nothing needs to be happening. So look, brawling out in the crowd should get approved, so they should have extra security over that way, make sure security knows it's coming, so they don't have to kind of like call it on the fly and be like, hey, over here, they're coming into the crowd. They can just get the little gimmick in their earpiece and be like, or be tipped off at the beginning, hey, let's have extra security in this area at this time. If it's as simple as that, I'm okay with that. Choking's really stupid. Allow choking in the ring. We covered that. Injury spots. That's a slippery slope, right? Should we be seizuring out there? Should we be like having the X symbol thrown up and stuff? Maybe not to that extent, or like, where it's really like the crowd's like, we think this guy's neck is probably broken. We're getting stretcher jobbed and stuff. But like, what about these people who are, you're working a match? What if you like go to fucking do a move off the knee or off the top rope and your knee gives on you, so you're working the knee the rest of the match, right? Yeah, you're working the knee spot, or you're fucking working a wrist injury, or a fucking whatever the case may be, right? You see people work injuries all the time. It's how watch any fucking Undertaker match. They're working the knee on the Undertaker because he's a big, tall, lanky bastard, right? It's simple psychology 101. So what that's kind of vague. Where do you draw the line on that one? Extreme injury spots, sure, get it approved. If you're just working a fucking match, that's stupid. We should just look completely healthy and safe and normal and no sell everything unless we get it prior approved. Hey, can I actually sell the moves? Would that be cool? Idiots. And what if I think Sean Rossap mentioned this as well. What if an injury happens and something has to be called on the fly? What if there's a real injury and they just kind of work around, or a spot gets botched and they're trying to like, anything that's called on the fly. Wrestling needs that ability to be fluid in a lot of ways. So that's my thoughts on all this. I won't keep you much later than that because we did kind of break it down. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about all this. And look, I guess we didn't address, involving the referees and celebrities and extras and stuff. Sure. At least just make sure they know what's coming. You don't want anybody to like get bumped into that was like, I didn't know that was coming. I'm going to sue you for everything. We don't need that shit. So yeah, with that said, most of this makes sense. Some of it is questionable or needs clarification. And that's kind of where I fall down on it. But what are your thoughts? How do you think or feel about this? What do you think it should be? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the motherfucking next. Yeah. Oh, I've missed a good pro wrestling Twitter beef, huh? It's been a while. What, a month? 2 months since we've had a good pro wrestling beef. They get me all hard. Look, we haven't heard anything from Ric Flair in a while. He's usually the one stirring it up. Everything's quiet on the Ric Flair front these days. The Dutch Mantel beef has died down. His little thing with Booker T popped off there a little bit. We haven't had a whole lot going on in the world of professional wrestling. Well, now you have your Twitter beef that you can sink your teeth into. And oh, it's a juicy one. Undoubtedly, you've heard about this by now. It is the Jim Cornette versus Matt Hardy, going hard at it. We'll throw Brian Last in there too. The great Brian Last. We'll give him his props. Going at it on Twitter. This all started when Matt Hardy had posted what he had thought would be just an innocuous, just a casual tweet, putting over his good buddy, best friends, the Young Bucks. Really kind of praising them. But where he done fucked up, my friends, is when he went and poked the bear and had to casually mention the cult of Cornette, the Cornette fans, and calling them toxic. Well, he stepped in it there because the cult of Cornette will not stand for that. Of course, they're going to send it to Jim Cornette and Brian Last in droves, and of course Corny and Brian are going to cover it on their show, and that's exactly what they did. So instead of listening to me go here and sit here and read through the Twitter exchange that we have here from Matt Hardy and the Cornette camp, let's go ahead and just listen to this clip here of the great Brian Last and Jim Cornette. All credit to them. Let's go ahead and listen to this clip of them kind of breaking down what exactly these tweets were and their final thoughts on the topic. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hop on over. I'll check back in with you, and then we'll hop on over and get Matt Hardy's take as he addressed it on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast this week. So let's go ahead and listen to Cornette.
Yes, Matt Hardy, best known for Standing on the Apron, wrote this on July 7th. Dark Order versus the Elite was a fantastic match. It's nice to see Dark Order earn such a well-deserved spotlight. Hashtag AEW Rampage. The Young Bucks and Adam Page are extraordinary talents that will unfortunately get their flowers way later than they should. So someone named Ryan quote tweeted him saying, Matt's right though. I know it's cool to hate on the Bucks and Hangman if you're a Punk Collision fan, but not for me. Give those guys their flowers. Matt Hardy quote tweeted Ryan saying, between this and the toxic Cornette cult, these guys don't get the adoration that they truly deserve. The die-hard Elite fans are phenomenal and get why they're special. But there's a huge chunk of fans that fail to give them the credit they deserve. Give these guys their flowers!
The flowers!
Is he high? What the fuck is he talking about?
I don't know. Is he burning the flowers? You can fucking verbally fellate these guys all you want if you don't knock our listeners and say the cult of Cornette is so toxic because we don't think that these guys are worth a shit. I'm sorry. It's a terrible thing that everybody in the world doesn't like your fucking friends that pay you. But there's no reason to call all of our listeners toxic because they don't like play wrestling.
Geez, Matt, I can understand selling your soul for rock and roll, but selling it for Adderall? Even if you have to abandon your principles and verbally fillet these childish cretins for your check, leave my fans alone. It's not their fault Tony's not paying them enough to lie.
And that was my comment, and I've left it there. It's don't bring our people into this fucking thing. And that's where I left it. And then apparently, Matt could not go to bed. He couldn't go to sleep. He couldn't leave it alone.
He knew what was waiting in the bedroom. So, after you were off the computer, which I knew, Matt Hardy responded, Geez, Jim, I haven't sold my soul. I'm sticking to my principles and telling truths. I feel morally obligated to do right by my friends, although that's probably foreign to you. I earn a check because I'm great at what I do and still employable. Keep on seeding dissension amongst fans with your shtick. It's too sweet. Because I knew you weren't on the computer. And again, he's attacking the listeners. And he's saying that we're seeding dissension. So I wrote, he thinks he's great at what he does, because he said he's still great at what he does. We've all been watching. His promos suck. His in-ring work is shit. And the only thing anyone has ever been interested in him doing is tagging in his brother. Jim telling the truth is, quote, seeding dissension? How many concussions is too many? And Matt Hardy responded to me, I'm great at what I do, Brian Least. I'm great at pro wrestling. I'm great at giving back and helping young talent. You're just some asshole with an opinion. And that opinion doesn't mean shit in reality. But most importantly, just an asshole. So I wrote, you've been a great enabler, but you know your crap has sucked for years. And that's Mr. Asshole to you.
Yeah.
Toxic. Toxic Matt Hardy here. Another shitty joke. Must be your forte, Least. My shit's good. Your shit is shit. You toxic bitch ass asshole. I said, are you trying to convince yourself? Your work is shit. Stay home. No one will care. You seem much more toxic than I am, with a track record to back it up. I'm better at what I do than you are at whatever it is you are still trying to do. And it's signed, Mr. Asshole to you. Well, let's go back to the Hardy compound. Don't have to convince myself. My live reactions, paycheck, and appearance fees solidify I'm good. I don't know shit about you, nor care to. So keep doing what you're good at, you goofy bitch-ass asshole.
Now, is that 2 times?
So I responded, how dare you? You're way goofier than me. You understand that you are the one whining and crying, right? Can you still comprehend that much? Once again, you seem quite toxic, all in caps. Is everything okay? He wrote,
What time is this?
me stating that you two constantly fuel a toxic culture isn't whining. It's just hard truths. You constantly moaning and bitching about me wrestling is whining and crying. Can you discern that? Or are you a mooncalf? I'm great, by the way. Just did a huge con in Tennessee.
Great, by the way. Wait a minute. I'm great, by the way.
By the way, he said he doesn't care about my opinion. He says he doesn't listen. You constantly moaning and bitching about me wrestling. Yeah, you listen, you fucking dope. And we know it. Dope. But anyway, I'm great, by the way. Just did a huge con in Tennessee. Have 4 beautiful kids. Financially set for life. Still get to live my dream. Have major respect within my industry. If I say so myself. Am considered a living legend. Been a huge contributor to pro wrestling, and no rando from the internet's opinion is going to change any of this. Especially not an egotistical asshole like Brian Least. Congrats on the podcast. It'll be a great way to be remembered in history. Enough of this silly-ass cyber convo. It's time to go crawl on top of my hot-ass wife.
Oh, he actually, and this is a quote, right?
No, he literally wrote everything I just said. But I wrote back, are you crying again? We call the bad shit bad. We call the good shit good. You wouldn't be whining if you had produced anything in the last several years that we could have said anything good about. However, as you know, your work is shit. Have you thought about talking to someone? And at this point, many of the listeners started sending him links to BetterHelp. So the next morning, you retweeted one of Matt's claims of how spectacular his life is because he did a convention in Tennessee. But you tweeted out, I'd like to thank Great Brian Last for staying up into the night toying with this concussed ex-great while he was protesting too much about how successful he is. I go to sleep too early on Saturday nights to have time to play with kids. Golly, Matt, don't you have signings to do? And he responded to you.
And by the way, and I was incorrect. It was Sunday night. That was the night before. I wrote Saturday because, hey, every day's a weekend to me.
Last night was Sunday, Jimmy. Maybe you're the concussed one. You're definitely an ex-great. I used to have massive respect for you, but that's been long gone. That's the case with many people now, and it's sad. This is my final tweet to you.
Thank you.
You and Least keep doing your shock jock routines and fanning those toxic flames of hate and negativity for your zombies to slurp up.
Said now they're zombies as well as poisonous, and they're slurpers.
Make those bucks however you can, though, right? I guess that's your philosophy, isn't it, Matt? Enjoy your life, Jim. I'll certainly enjoy mine.
And hopefully, I was about to say, hopefully he will live long enough to enjoy it if they don't keep damaging his brain over there in that company he's taking up for.
They went on way too fucking long. Matt should have just gave up while he was ahead. He really never got ahead. And look, I'm not hating. I'm not taking sides. I know this sounds like maybe I'm on Team Corny or something. I'm certainly not on Team Young Bucks, but I'm not siding with Corny necessarily, but I think Matt stepped in it. He should have never had anything to do with the Cult of Cornette. And that's not to say don't speak of my name. I mean, if you're gonna invoke them, you just better be ready to fucking deal with the swarm, because it's coming. It's coming. They like that shit. They enjoy the confrontation, and they are particularly mean and aggressive, and will keep going until they get the last word and you quit. So it was a fun little exchange to listen to there, especially through the the vocal stylings of Brian Last. And I just think Matt went on maybe a little bit too long. I honestly I half think that Rebby Hardy probably had his phone because this sounds like her kind of shit. Rebby's a feisty bitch. I don't know if you know much about Matt Hardy's wife, but this woman is a fucking Latina firecracker if there ever was one. She is fiery, and she will crawl up your ass and tear you a new one so quick it's not even funny. Matt needs to be kind and gentle and happy and peaceful. That's the balance in that marriage. That's why he's like that, because she handles the rest on her end. Let me fucking tell you. I mean, I don't know her personally, but, you know, I've been around the wrestling business long enough, and you have as well. You know, we've seen and heard enough of her. Don't get her fucking started either. So it's possible she had his phone, though I think she would have got a little more spicy. And look, she's not afraid to do it in her own name either. You know, Brian Last and Cornette were tag teaming Matt, so, you know, would have been interesting to see Rebby jump in. But I think, oh boy, would that have been interesting to see Rebby jump in, to be honest with you, because I could see Brian. I mean, they were not entirely too kind to Rebby. What a mess. But Matt Hardy did address it on his podcast, and this is what he had to say about it, and kind of sounds like he's ready to move on, and rightfully so he should. Check out this clip.
Orange Cassidy, real name Jim. Sorry, I hate to spoil things, you know, breaking kayfabe for a minute. Jim is the sweetest guy ever, nicest guy ever. I love him so much. And I just know him and like the people around him, they were so taken aback by Cornette said, I just wish he would dive out of the ring. And I'm not sure if I just want his neck to snap or if I want his brains to splatter. What? I mean, like that is a point where you're being a shock jock, and that is like taking it way too far. And one of the most bothersome things out of all that is that he's a guy that was so influential to so many managers, and he was such an amazing talent, and he was just such a big deal as a manager with so many great different tag teams at different times. I mean, a lot of people look up to him, and to hear that out of his mouth, it's just like, what? You know, and obviously it's just, I feel like that's a very irresponsible thing to say, even if that's something you believe, even if that's something you truly want to see. That's something that is very irresponsible to say. And also it's just morally, it's just wrong.
So what do you say to the people that are just like, oh, it's a bit, it's all a joke, it's all for entertainment?
I mean, at this point, I don't think it is a bit. I mean, because he's not playing a character. You don't see a separation of Jim Cornette, the podcaster, and Jim Cornette, the regular person. I mean, it's him all the time, and he's just set in his ways. I mean, and I think, you know, where was the last place he was at? He was at NWA, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For a little while. What happened there?
Didn't work out.
It didn't work out. I mean, it just seems like he's had a lot of issues of things not working out. So, I mean, you know, if that happens several times over, then maybe the common denominator isn't the promotion. Maybe it is the talent. You know, so I don't know. I don't think you can call it a bit, because he said he calls shit like he sees it. That was one thing that was said in that tweet by Brian Least. Brian Least said, he said, like, we call the good stuff good, we call the bad stuff bad. Also, so I guess they're real. They're shooting, brother. They're shooting. I don't know, you know, but it's just one of those things. I think it's very irresponsible, and I think it shows a lack of, like, I think it shows a lack of discipline to make a comment like that when you've worked in this industry for 40 years. You know, even wishing someone would break their neck or splatter their brains or whatever, even if you're saying it in an embellishing way, I think it's still bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't think they're shock jocking. I don't think it's maybe to a certain extent. But look, Cornette's podcast is the biggest thing in pro wrestling podcasts. It's frankly, as they say, sometimes the bigger than the wrestling itself. So it's a big show, listened to by a lot of people, and it's listened to by a lot of negative people. Look, we all know that the Cornette fans are the particularly feisty fans, the ones that are mean, the ones that'll bury you, the ones that will, talk shit and stuff like that. But and then they don't like the flippy floppy stuff, the fake phony. It's phony. But I don't think they're putting on a shtick. Cornette is also easily one of, if not the smartest men in the professional wrestling business. Listening to him is like sitting under the learning tree. I do not always agree with everything he has to say. I do think wrestling has evolved from the 1980s, early 80s fucking smoke-filled, dimly lit sportatoriums. It's a different sport now. I've said this a bajillion times here on this podcast. I think ever since UFC, especially Attitude Era, was a catalyst, it really made wrestling more entertainment-y. But certainly since UFC has come along, there's been a hard kind of fork where, anything that was legitimate, plausibly legitimate, or sports-like from wrestling went to UFC, which is essentially real combat sports. It's real pro wrestling is what it is. Everybody's a different character, personality from a different country with a different skill set, and they're going to fight, and they're going to do promos back and forth and the press conference and build it up and rankings and rematches. And look, man, they're booking pro wrestling. They really are. It's a different type. It's a very sports-based type of pro wrestling, but it's essentially what it is. If pro wrestling was a real sport, it'd be UFC. So wrestling, of course, with the Attitude Era and the entertainment value behind it, and now UFC blatantly in the internet, everybody knows wrestling's a work now, and they know all the secrets and all of that. It's all out in the open. So what can we do now other than just try to be entertaining and put on a good show? Wrestling is not designed to be, meant to be, or intended for any at all at this point to try to pull the wool over your eyes and make you think it's real. And I think Jim Cornette's baseline on pretty much everything is it's phony. If it's not something that would happen in an actual sports-like contest, then it's stupid. I get the psychology behind that, because even if wrestling's a work, you want to buy into it. You don't want to, but look, I'm a guy that likes the pizza guy. I'm a huge fan of this guy on Twitter, wrestling Twitter, by the name of Jack Vaughn. I know you guys have seen this guy. If not, seek him out. He does these Twitter clips. They're so good. They're so spot on, where he just makes fun of indie-rific wrestlers and all the jokey stuff about wrestling nowadays. He kind of pokes fun at, and I like this kind of I like a little entertainment value. I like the smorgasbord, right? Like the main event, like give me a serious match I can believe in. But before the main event, after a couple other solid, intense, fierce, realistic bangers, give me Orange Cassidy throwing his hands in his pockets and kicking some shins. It's a palate cleanser. It's fine. It's fine. I'm okay with all that shit. But I get where Corny's coming from, and I still think Corny's one of the wisest men in the world of professional wrestling, and I listen to him almost religiously. Listen to damn near everything he puts out, because it's entertaining. It's good shit, and he knows his shit. And Matt Hardy should know better than to step into it with him. But is he putting on a shtick? I don't think so. Playing it up a little bit, perhaps. But Corny's always been kind of bitchy and negative and stuff, and I don't think they could fake it for that long. They're not playing a character. They might take that negative tone, that negative angle approach, but hell, they put shit over when they see good stuff that they like, and they don't just shit on everything. I think, I don't know, it's absolutely a show that you got to keep in your rotation, right? So, look, I like Matt Hardy too, and I like his show, and he's a smart guy too, and they used to like each other, and I get what Matt's saying too, just because, fucking Matt's friends with the Young Bucks, suddenly, like, you can't like me because during the pandemic when we had to think outside the box, I changed magically in a fucking ice box. Okay, it's silly and stupid, the Lake of Reincarnation, sure. It's fake, phony bullshit. But I don't know. It's entertaining to me. I don't care. It's a stupid reason to just hate somebody and never want to wish death upon them, but that's what makes corny entertaining anyway. What are your thoughts? What do you think about this whole beef? All right, whose side are you on? Do you see both sides of it? I just think like it is a cult in a lot of ways. If you mention them in a negative tone, you're fucked. They will come at you, and they will come at you with vengeance. And that's essentially that. But I do think corny, his take can be a little dated sometimes, or at least his perspective, although brilliant and wise beyond his years and way smarter than I'll ever be about this business. Tends to come from the smoky sportatoriums of the early 1980s with his philosophizing on the business. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. On to the next. There you go. Thing on my thing. Let me talk to you. Well, LA Knight is a name that has been coming up in the news of pro wrestling podcast as of late. Ever since Kevin Nash, even before, LA Knight's starting to really take off, starting to get a lot of heat behind him, he's on track to be a main event megastar, in my opinion. I think he's got everything he needs. I think he's getting over like a motherfucker. They just need to strap the rocket to him and let him fly. But not everybody has that opinion. And all this got stirred up because Kevin Nash, who never bites his tongue, always has something to say. And it's going to be an opinion, whether you like it or not. And he's going to tell it to you. And we love Kevin for it. Big Sexy's podcast. Click this. Always entertaining. I don't cover it as much as I would like to here on the show. I do listen to it. But it doesn't make the show because this is the pro wrestling podcast, and they quite honestly do not talk a lot of wrestling. When they do, it's just kind of bullshit and not necessarily newsworthy. So, but this one was. Kevin Nash had, and this started last week. This is not this week's, but it did carry over into this week. So we're going to cover it all here. First starting with this clip here, the original clip. Big Sexy Kevin Nash giving his opinions on LA Knight. Yeah.
Pull up that LA fucking guy. LA, whatever the fuck his name is. Okay, LA Knight. There he is. Go back.
Yeah, LA Knight.
Okay, LA Knight. Pull that motherfucker up. Am I the only one that sees like an absolute ripoff of The Rock? To the point where he cut the promo on fucking Logan Paul or whatever the fuck his name is. He said, stick it out. The only thing he didn't do was turn the motherfucker sideways. Jesus Christ. Are you guys like, what is everybody have amnesia? There's nothing original. Oh man, his fucking promos. Finally, LA Knight has come back as a white guy. Fucking uncle.
So Kevin raises some interesting points, and I'll get to those at the end and kind of give you my thoughts here. But this got everybody else talking too. Twitter became a buzz with it. A lot of people, controversial take by Kevin Nash, by all accounts, of course, like I said. That's Big Sexy. It's what he does. Controversial take. And Twitter was a buzz with it. And Kevin Nash did do a response this week about it as well. And, of course, we also got a couple other responses. So what I'm going to do, I have a clip here of Booker T actually giving his thoughts on LA Knight, as well as Conrad Thompson and Jeff Jarrett, of all people. I am breaking my no Jeff Jarrett rule. He's growing on me. We can talk about that more at a later date, but we will play those clips where they kind of maybe give an alternate take on this, maybe their thoughts on LA Knight, and then we're going to check back in with Kevin Nash and then I'll catch you on the flip side.
It's been fun listening to the talk over the week about that boy LA Knight. He's been pretty much making headlines everywhere. I mean, from the comment that my big homie made, Kevin Nash, from the comments that I made, Disco Inferno, Conan, everybody's talking about LA Knight, and everybody pretty much coming to the same consensus. Yes, he's a throwback. He's a guy that's definitely taking from what worked back in the day and bringing it to today's wrestling. And I get it. What's old is new again. He had a huge ovation at Madison Square Garden. Like I say, man, this guy, he's going to get over. LA Knight, he's going to get over whether he got a belt around his waist, whether he don't have a belt around his waist. He's going to get over. But put the rocket on it. Put the rocket on LA Knight. Send him straight to the moon. That's just my opinion.
But LA Knight is getting really, really over with this WWE crowd. Yeah. And Kevin Nash was asked about LA Knight. And he said, am I the only one who sees an absolute ripoff of The Rock? To the point where he cut the promo on fucking Logan Paul or whatever the fuck his name is. He said, yeah, stick it. The only thing he didn't do was turn the motherfucker sideways. Jesus Christ, does everybody have amnesia? There's nothing original. Oh man, his fucking promos. Finally, LA Knight has come back as a white guy. Fucking uncle. So I love Kevin Nash. I could listen to him read the phone book and it would be entertaining. But I did have a laugh to myself like you did, thinking, man, isn't everything in wrestling inspired by something else? Like musicians today were certainly inspired by musicians of the past. If you listen to hip hop, you'll hear a lot of samples, and you'll certainly hear popular songs being redone, like the Whitney Houston song that crushed, or the Chris Stapleton song that crushed. Somebody else wrote that. They just redid it and it hit. And I think that applies to wrestling too, where you borrow from this guy and that guy. And look at all the people that Ric Flair inspired, or the superstar Billy Graham inspired, on and on. I'm just curious from your perspective. And for that matter, even Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, he wasn't the first one, like Buddy Rogers was. And anyway, I'm curious your take on what Kevin said and what you think of, just through history. A lot of wrestling and entertainment borrows from the past, no?
To your point, absolutely. Everything is inspired in a certain way. The folks that can take a little inspiration here and a little inspiration there and a little inspiration there and mash it up and make it authentic to themselves, well, then they're not just uber successful, but, innovators, if you will. But, getting into the philosophy, everything starts as a thought. And what are thoughts made of? In a lot of ways, divine inspiration, but an intuitive thought. It's all kind of what you've seen before, and how can I do something a little different? So, boy, Kevin, I read that and it took me back to being in a car. Saying that, riding down the car road and saying that. And I guarantee if he had a couple of tall ones in him, he would start doing impersonations, and then we'd be really laughing our ass off. But
so because everybody was outraged about this and everybody had their opinion, Kevin Nash gave a response, a rebuttal. He addressed his critics, those criticizing his hot take on this, and he came back for a little bit more. Check out this clip.
Then they say, well, you buried the guy. I didn't say he couldn't work. I've never seen him in the ring. I didn't say he couldn't throw a punch. I just said it wasn't very original.
So first of all, no, Kevin. He kind of backpedaled a little bit there, right? He's like, look, all I said was, I hadn't really seen his work, but he's kind of a little bit of a ripoff. No, you didn't say it like that, though, Kev. You said it much worse. I didn't bury the guy. Yeah, you buried him. Do I need to go back and play the clip again? He buried the motherfucker.
I got a text message from him. I'm just going to read what it says. Hey, Nash, I know you don't know me. I've got an idea of this character. He's called the Scorpion King. What do you think? This is bullshit. Okay, Rock was the Scorpion King.
God damn it.
He literally said it finally. LA Knight has come back as a white guy. The white guy, I don't know what the fuck he just said, but you get the point. He buried the guy. He wasn't just casually saying, hey, I think he's kind of borrowing from these guys, not entirely original. He was like, yeah, fuck this fucking guy. What the fuck's he think he doing? Was his general tone about this. So what do I think? If you care, you stuck around this long, so you might. I think LA Knight is very reminiscent of The Rock and Stone Cold. And if you don't believe me, if you're not 100% sure on that, to the point where I honestly think that's exactly what LA Knight's doing, is borrowing heavily from the two of the greatest of all time, from the Attitude Era especially, the two top guys. And check out Exhibit A if you don't believe me. And hopefully that clip didn't get me taken off of YouTube. But I think it's short enough and kind of covered a little bit to the point where maybe they won't notice. Who knows? Obviously, the dude even has his own stunner and rock bottom, for fuck's sakes. His mannerisms and that in his, the vests and stuff like that are very Steve Austin-esque. But the way he talks is very Rock-esque. And I think, what I even myself was like, okay, well, maybe he's borrowing a little bit or slightly inspired or whatever. But, I don't think he's an outright ripoff. But then I saw him do that stunner and rock bottom both in a row like that. And I think that was probably kind of a fuck you, too. Doing them together like that, just to kind of say, hey, yeah, I am. Fuck you. Whatever you say I am. I like LA Knight, and I think he's fantastic. I want more of him on my TV. I want him to get the big pushki. Push him to the top. Him versus LA Knight, Seth Rollins. I don't think he's the guy to dethrone Roman. I think Cody has to come back and finish the story, but at WrestleMania. But maybe we do a slow build of LA Knight up to a world title win. Give him like a, between now and WrestleMania, give him a run with either the IC or the US title. Probably the US title, because I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with Gunther quite yet, other than to keep him strong and get him to the main event level. Can't be the Intercontinental Champion forever, but I don't know if LA Knight's the guy to beat Gunther, right? But he is the guy to beat fucking Pretty Boy, right? Whatever the fuck his name is. Forgot it already, blanking on it. Austin Theory. It's exactly what I think of Austin Theory. Not a huge fan. He's okay. But I love me some LA Knight. I think that's the plan. The crowd's really pissy about the lack of push from LA Knight. Even that clip I just showed you, it's the highest viewed on YouTube from SmackDown, which featured the fucking Bloodline storyline, that Madison Square Garden, that huge angle. What got more views? LA Knight beating up the fucking the fucking whoever those guys are. Those guys need to get off of my TV too, by the way. They don't belong there. They all suck. This Top Dollar fella, that little fucking whatever they were doing, the girl was trying to chime in and hype, and they don't do nothing for me. They need to get cut in the next round of cuts. I don't think they're making it. I don't know why they even got called up to the main roster. It's my opinion. So LA Knight squashed them all by himself. He's the most over fucking thing. And it wasn't even on TV. It was on the pre-show. I think Triple H, it's a pattern now. So check this out, because he's doing the same thing with Cody. Triple H is in the longer-term storytelling. We're starting to see this now, and he really only took over about a year ago after SummerSlam. And as we were told, basically from SummerSlam to Mania, a lot of that was still the plans that were put in place by Vince. Who to push, how we're getting there, the stories we're telling. A lot of that was already kind of set up. Triple H wasn't able to start entirely from scratch after that SummerSlam, but he kind of did after WrestleMania, or at least as we're told creatively, right? And now that Vince is back and he's been backstage and rewriting scripts, it's kind of just Vince's deal again. But there's certainly still differences, and one of them, obviously, besides the fantastic Bloodline storyline, is the fact that, there's long-term storytelling going on. And I think that's what they're doing with the LA Knight. They're certainly doing it with Cody. They had him lose to Roman because they're going to tell the longer story. He's going to come back next year. If they don't, they drop the ball. But if they do bring Cody back to Mania versus Roman next year, that's how you fucking do it right there. Good game. Smack on the ass. That's how you do it. And LA Knight, I think they'd absolutely recognize him being over. You'd be stupid and blind not to. And LA Knight needs to get the fuck out of WWE and over to AEW or something if they don't do anything with him. But Triple H is very smart. He's the cerebral assassin, right? The game. He knows the shit out of this business. His psychology is up there with the greats, okay? He's studied the greats. He's picked the brains of the greats. He is a fucking wrestling nut, a wrestling historian. Triple H, I trust very dearly with his knowledge of professional wrestling. Whether the old man has the final say or overrules him, that's a different thing. But what I think is going on here is Triple H knows that you can't just push somebody the second that they start showing signs of getting over. So when you do, you run the risk of maybe losing the fans, too much too soon, hot-shotting. Sometimes you want to get the fans fucking begging. And you almost want to create that underdog of like, they're burying him. Not only are they not pushing him, they're burying. And the crowd gets louder and louder and louder, and they demand it more. And I think that's what they're doing with LA Knight. If I'm wrong, then they're just blowing it. They're dropping the ball with him. But I think they're purposely kind of holding him back, because they probably got other things they're trying, the Bloodline storyline, obviously. But I think they're setting him up to kind of take a run at Austin Theory's U.S. title and then kind of see what he's got. Cut him loose from there. And they're just kind of pulling it back more to let it go and just fucking shoots farther. You know what I mean? That's a slippery slope, though. You don't want to, you absolutely can lose the audience. You run the risk of them just losing interest and feeling like, oh, my guy's never going to get the push, so fuck it. And WWE has a long, dirty track record of doing that to guys. Fans get behind wrestlers, and WWE just goes, LOL, they're losing. Again and again and again. But have you met my blue-eyed babyface Roman Reigns? He's really good. You'll like him. Have some Roman Reigns. You don't like Daniel Bryan. He's not for you. He's little. He's a little hippie guy. You want Roman Reigns. That's what you want. We've had that for 20 years. Before that, it was, you want John Cena. You don't want CM Punk. CM Punk, he looks like a fucking chef, short order cook, as Kevin Nash would say. You want John Cena. He's the guy that you need here. Ultimately, Vince was right about both, but they have a habit of forcing people down our throats or that sort of, but you can lose the fans too. It goes both ways. Fans will give up on a guy. They'll stop backing him. The crowd will start to get quiet because they'll feel like they're not being heard or it's not going anywhere. Fuck it. We're moving on to somebody else. That's been beat out. Hope has been beat out of wrestling fans for years and years and years and years and years. So In LA Knight's an older guy. He's not in his 20s. He's not old. People are kind of throwing that around, and I know I just said it too, but it's not in the terms of he's too old for the business. It's not DDP necessarily. It's that he's in the same age. Finn Balor's no older. If not, might be older. Seth Rollins, like he's in that same age bracket. AJ's way older. Like he's in the age bracket of top guys. Bobby Lashley, like all of them are. Brock, you know what I mean? So he's not too old for the business, but he's too old to kind of lollygag on the undercard. Right? Either fucking, like Booker T said, you strap a rocket to him and let him go. Some guys, you just got to fucking ride that wave, and others, you can draw it out more. I kind of think that they're they have a plan for him, but I don't know. If they're not, they're dropping the ball, but I think they should get on it sooner than later still. And kind of ride this LA Knight wave and let him go. And I wouldn't put him at a world title level yet. Give him another year or two before we get there. We don't got to think about that. Putting the rocket to a guy does not mean he's got to be the main event of WrestleMania. Is he going to be the guy to beat Roman now instead of Cody? No. Doesn't have to be. Here's what you do. You put the fucking LA Knight in the United States title as a babyface. And you let him fucking stomp as a top. You elevate the U.S. title. He'd be a top draw still. Cut him loose. Let him get himself over. Let him do anything he fucking wants on TV within restrictions. But really kind of, here's the ball. See what you can do as the United States champion. Let him get it as over as a world title if he can. Why not? Put him in, allow him that he can be a co-main event. Put him in spots to succeed. Put him as, grooming him to be the next guy in 1 or 2 years. By then, guess what? LA Knight's going to turn heel again. He's technically a heel right now, I think. But he's a babyface, right? The crowd loves him. And he's going to go beat Austin Theory, win the U.S. title, have a huge babyface run. But after a year or two, that will die down. And the fans will get a little apathetic or whatever. Maybe not. He could be a babyface forever, but you could do a heel turn after a year or two, and he could chase Cody for the title and be a top fucking heel competitor for Cody. And they could even toss it back and forth a couple times. LA Knight could be one of those guys who wins the title at Survivor Series and then loses it back at WrestleMania. That whole fucking... that angle. Wins it at SummerSlam, loses it back at Mania. We've seen that before. That's fine. That's fun. Get the short little LA Knight run. Flip it around a little bit. Toss it back and forth a couple times. Have some fun with it. LA Knight can carry, he reminds me of a Ken Kennedy. And Ken Kennedy was a victim of politics. And, I think he really was on the brink of being a really big breakout star there and then was just completely had his nuts cut off. So hopefully they can kind of just let this man run loose. And as for just to kind of put a bow on this and wrap it up, is he a ripoff of Rock and Austin? Yeah, to a certain extent. And I think more blatantly than he should be. But it works. It's working for him. And if you're going to rob from people, rob from the best. And wrestling's got a long track record of this. The fucking Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Nature Boy Ric Flair. Right? It's always, it's cyclical. These gimmicks keep coming around. It's these attitudes. And he's doing their thing, but he's putting his own, he's making it LA Knight. But he's got that BMA or BMF, bad motherfucker walk down to the ring. And he's got the vest. And he knows, like subconsciously, when he's walking to the ring like this with a vest on and his arms are jacked, and he gets in the ring and he just starts beating somebody's ass, it's very Stone Cold-esque. That's all he has to do. But it's LA Knight-esque as well. And The Rock, like his cadence, yeah, he's got to kind of change. He talks like The Rock, and that's kind of a little bit of a problem. But the trash talking and the funny, like just the way the energy, the electricity that The Rock had is there in LA Knight, and he's got that. And it does kind of come out as The Rock, but he's not a dollar store knockoff of it. He's channeling that same energy in a lot of ways. Like you can't act charisma and electricity. You can't. You either have it or you don't. You have it or you don't have it. You can work to get it. You can earn it. I don't think you can fake it. Not for that long anyway. Not to the point where the crowd is fucking eating out of the palm of your hand. So yeah, I am a massive LA Knight fan. I think he's exactly what the wrestling business needs. Throw the U.S. title on him for a year or two. Let him run wild. And then put him up in the main event title picture and give him a little run ski with that too. And look, he's only got 6 to 10 years at a top of a card level. So now's the time. Pull the trigger on him. Let's do it. Yeah. So James over at Wrestling Shoot Interviews had a fun little sit-down interview with Al Snow this week, who is a wrestling traditionalist, to say the least. He's very set in his ways, even though he was the guy carrying around a mannequin's head and doing hardcore matches forever and stuff. He is a wrestling old school meat and potatoes kind of guy at heart. And he had a particular take while talking with James over at Wrestling Shoot Interviews about the wrestlers nowadays look like they're the fans that come over the railing, they hop over the other side, and they get in the ring. And I do have a whole lot to say about this. Very mixed opinions. A lot to add to this. But first, let's check out this clip, and not just a clip about the wrestlers looking like the fans these days, but also just, should there be a qualification to become a pro wrestler these days? He makes the point, plumbers have licenses, hairstylists have licenses, but any old fucking video store clerk can throw on a pair of spandex and fucking hop in the ring and take bumps. Check out this clip.
A lot of independent wrestling locker rooms, looking around the locker room, and one, no ifs, ands, or buts, this is an aesthetic, cosmetic business. And meaning that when you walk through that curtain, physically, visually, you better be able to convey to an audience an ability to believe that you can whip somebody's ass, that you make your living in a competitive combat situation. Well, let's face it. There are a lot of people that are in this business right now that do not even remotely look like that. Okay. But I get it. That's fine. I'm not judging as far as a physical appearance, but again, let's make no mistake. This is a physical appearance business. That's how it works. I didn't make the rules. I don't care how you look. Here's my problem. My problem is that you're physically in no actual real condition to safely and respectably go in the ring and perform on a level that allows you to protect yourself and your opponent. That's my issue. That's my problem. Because regardless of what you might think as far as, oh, wrestling's fake, it is still very much a very intense athletic endeavor that you're going out and performing. And now you're going to do it. And in about 8 minutes, you're going to want to try to do that cool spot you saw recently on your New Japan video. And you're going to want to do it. And you're too blown up to safely and effectively do it. And one of you might potentially, again, back when we had the conversation about Darren Drozdov, suffer a life-altering or life-ending injury. And then when I really got to thinking about it, because in the United States, we have numerous vocations that require a license to perform. If you're a beautician, you've got to go to a state accredited training facility for, even if you just want to cut hair, all right? Or you want to work on dead people. And what's the risk of you injuring a dead person? Who cares? They're dead, all right? You've got to go to a state accredited school, be taught by a state accredited approved teacher. You have to complete a certain number of state required hours. You have to then complete a certain number of resident hours, meaning you have actual hands-on experience performing the work. And then and only then do you get to take a test to get a license to pursue that vocation. In professional wrestling within the United States, we've got numerous athletic commissions. We've got them all over the country. The requirement for you to be a licensed professional wrestler is in most states, you just take a physical and then you pay your money, you're done. That's it. There are no standards. All of the people that were in the stands now have a means of egress to go right out of the stands over the rail and they get into the ring. And it in the wrestling business has suffered for it.
That's look, I get where he's coming from, especially as like an old school meat and potatoes guy, as I said. Like I get why. I get the I don't disagree, but at the end of the day, wrestling is entertainment. It's not a service to the public per se. You know, when you're cutting someone's hair, you can fuck someone's hair up. When you're fixing someone's car, you can fuck someone's car up. And then fucking engine can fall out of the bottom of it while they're driving down the road. I legit had I had somebody do my a Midas shop. Fucking, it's a franchise, I believe. You know, it's everywhere, but it's different independent owners. And fucking, the fucking tire came loose. They did my brakes and they didn't fucking tighten the lug nuts. So I'm going down the highway and the tire came loose. Lucky it didn't fall off, but I felt it kind of wobbling loose and it did a little bit of damage. And they ended up chipping in their fair share to get that taken care of. So, they're servicing the public is what I'm saying. And that should require a license of some sort. A wrestler, they're putting on a show at the end of the day. It's not a sport. Yes, it's full contact, and I get. So, just to finish my thought, and then I'll dive in more of the nuance of what Al's talking about. Like a rock band, you don't have to get a license to go play a bar gig down the street, the local bar cover band. They don't need a license to do that. You don't need a license to do an open mic at stand-up comedy. You shouldn't need a license to put on a professional wrestling show. However, look, the wrestlers are the marks these days. It's 100% true. Look, I'm right there with them, my time in professional wrestling was me marking out about it the whole time. Oh my God, there's Eugene. Oh my God, there's Daddy Ass. Oh my God, there's Raven. Oh my God, there's X-Pac. Too sweet me. Just a fucking mark. So I get it. And the locker room is filled with a lot of marks, but it always has been, hasn't it? The difference is that, you have to be a wrestling fan. I take that back because there's a lot of just general, like, tough guys that got into the business because of their football injury or they were bouncing people at the bar and somebody thought they had a good look. So, there's those stories too. But back in the day, there was more of a qualification to get into the business. When you look at like when a Hulk Hogan started, they would break a motherfucker's leg just for thinking about, you pretty boy. Oh, you think you got nice big muscles. You want to come on in and you want to be a professional wrestler, huh? That's what you want to do? Okay, step into the ring, pretty boy. Let's see what you got. Snap. Now get the fuck out of here and don't ever come back. Leave the wrestling to grown-ups. But he came back. Oh, well, this kid might have something. He's got guts. We like that. Now, that's an extreme example. I actually do not condone those actions. It's a bit much. But I am all for, the things where they make you do 500 squats and run a fucking so many miles and try to blow you up, and then they stretch you and try to scare you away. And the tough ones, the ones who really, really want it, the ones that come back the next day might be the keepers. I believe in that policy, and I really do. I think it is too easy to get trained nowadays. You just go to a wrestling school, and the standards are low, especially on the independent level. There's a lot of skinny, bony people that you look at them from the crowd and you could power bomb the shit out of them your fucking selves. And even on AEW TV, and fucking Fuego del Sol, you pick that guy up over your head and spin him around in circles if you want to. Could toss him out the ring. Like, there's something to be said for that. There should be, I don't know. I think it's just that the business has changed, right? I was going to say, maybe there should be some standards, but I also don't believe in like restricting people from living their dreams. I think people maybe need to be more realistic about their dreams. Not everybody can be a professional wrestler, or should be anyway. And look, these people aren't going to make it to the big time anyway. But when you go to any of your local indie shows, especially the lower quality ones, you're going to see some people that look like you're fucking, your pool boy or something. It is what it is. And I'm fine with that. And Al, the other nuance to what Al was saying is these guys have to be in shape enough to be able to still take care of you when they're winded and tired, and they need to be able to have the strength, the awareness, the fucking, you know what I mean? They have to, you're putting your life in people's hands when you're doing these stupid moves in these rings. Everybody's got to do their triple indie diver, right? The indie diver driver 95 or whatever the fuck. Everybody's got to do the triple indie driver 95 to the outside of the ring through 6 tables doors stacked up. You got to be able to handle that shit. Do your move if you want, I guess. But like, can you hold the guy up and make sure you're not dropping him on his head when you're sweaty and tired and he's sweaty and tired? Sometimes it's tough for the pros. So there should be some standards, but there's not, and that's just the way it is. That ship has sailed. Wrestling's a different business, but those people aren't going to make it to the top. There's still standards for television. Yes, you see a lot smaller guys and light heavyweights, but you had guys like the cruiserweights back in WCW kind of kick those doors open. ECW had a lot of little guys, all the vanilla midgets from Kevin Nash's day. That was the start of it. But then UFC came along, and the middleweights and the light heavyweights and the welterweights, and these guys were stars. Conor McGregor's like 5'4". You know what I mean? Floyd Mayweather, he's a little motherfucker. Like, people in real legitimate combat sports are kicking people's asses and putting on big shows. The best fights in UFCs are usually not the heavyweight fights. They're good. There's some bangers, and when a heavyweight hits you, a heavyweight fight hits different. Make no mistake. You get 2 big meaty hosses out there, and people are gonna be bleeding and hurting and breaking things. But some of these middleweights and lightweights, man, they can fucking go, and they're stars. Conor McGregor is gonna be the biggest star of all time, most likely. And even look at like the Diaz brothers and stuff like that. So none of these are big guys. So that changed the game too. It made it like people can now recognize a fit, athletic little guy as a legitimate badass wrestler. You can look at a Zack Sabre Jr. and go, oh man, he looks like a little feeble girl. But then you see all the pretzels that he twists people into and stuff. And it's like, okay, this guy's a fucking wrestling clinic, a walking wrestling clinic, But I think for the upper echelon, there's still like a standard. And even like you see Will Ospreay beef the fuck up. When I talk about like a Zack Sabre Jr., when Will Ospreay started, he wasn't that feeble, but he was a smaller guy too. He has beefed himself up to heavyweight. Cody Rhodes was a guy that put on a lot of muscle before he went to WWE too. He had been slimmer at one point. Not slimmer like the gut, but a smaller frame. These guys are bulking up and they're getting that main event push ski. But it's okay. It's okay to be smaller. So I get what Al Snow's saying, and he has a lot of points. I just think it's a different business now. Similar with the Jim Cornette folks. It's a different business. That ship has sailed. Believability is not the name of the game anymore. Entertainment is the name of the game. The thing has shifted. We're not trying to make you a believer. We're trying to put on a good show. Period. End of story. For some matches, believability is key. For other matches, it's a funny it's a goofy, silly thing. You know what I mean? All of it fits to, you can have Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville with giant mouse traps and giant hand spots and stuff like that. Like, fine. I don't care. Just, keep your main event world title matches serious. Keep the credibility there. Give me a bunch of that, and you can break the tension, when you're building the roller coaster. You got to take things down a little bit. Give me something shticky. It's fun. It's fine. I'm okay with it. Doesn't have to be serious and believable. That ship has sailed. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of what Al Snow had to say? Good points? Not so good points? Grumpy old man yelling at clouds? What's your take? Let me know. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. Suzuki-san. Minoru Suzuki, the murder grandpa himself, New Japan's iconic killer old man that's going to beat the fucking shit out of you, was on Hey EW with RJ City of all things. Soon as I saw the announcement that this was going to happen, I was like, I want this now. I don't even want to wait till tomorrow. And, the show's going out, usually goes out on Sunday, went out a little bit later. So I was able to include it. Sunday's clip with Minoru Suzuki in RJ City. And this was pure gold. Absolutely classic entertainment. These Hey EW shows are always gold, but Minoru Suzuki, I'm not saying it's the best one, but I'm saying it's pure gold. Check out this clip.
I apologize. When you go to the barber, what do you ask for? Okay. You sometimes wear a fedora, too. And I go back to how are you not an asshole? Because on paper, you think you are, but you're not. Huh? If somebody else dressed like you, they would be outside of a nightclub with a pager on their hip. This is why I think you make it work. And stop me if I'm being too analytical. It's because you're so confident in your ability to kill people that you can relax and enjoy yourself. See? I have the opposite problem. If anyone on this screen is going to die, it's most likely me. So I can't relax and enjoy myself. I'm not going to die now. No. Okay. Okay. Yes? Okay. No? Yes. No. I meant no. Maybe. Sometimes. Maybe. Sometimes? Yeah. You come to the ring with a full-size towel. Do you use it to dry off afterwards? You put it over yourself, you walk back right into the shower, and then you're in bed by 9 p.m.? No. Okay. Just a waste of a towel. Was it a burden being the leader of Suzuki-gun because it's named after you?
I love this kind of shit in pro wrestling. This makes my dick hard for pro wrestling. I love, only in this world can you get this kind of stuff, these kind of odd couples. Minoru Suzuki's a gem. I know he gets a lot of hate from the Cornette crowd. Anybody that's not an American wrestler, they think nobody's ever heard of him and nobody cares. Everybody's heard of Minoru Suzuki. He's not a stranger. He's been to America so many goddamn times that unless you're just WWF for life, WWE for life, maybe then you've never heard of him. But if you've ever watched wrestling outside of WWE for like a year, you have undoubtedly seen or at least heard of Minoru Suzuki and are aware that he is the murder grandpa. He's the grumpy old man that will kill you dead with his bare hands. I love this character. It is hurt a little bit when it comes over to the United States by people like Ishii coming over too, because he's also got that I'm going to murder you, and they stand there and they do the chops back and forth. It gets old. I had enough of that with the New Japan stuff, the the forbidden door became the let's just sit and chop back and forth until the crowd starts cheering. I can do without that with New Japan. A little bit's fine, but it's so overdone. I can go without it for quite a while at this point. And, like I said, Ishii takes a little bit of that away from Suzuki, but Suzuki's iconic, in my opinion. The music, Kaza Ninare. Oh, my God. What a fucking... And just the looks on this man's face. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking... he's fantastic. And then RJ... Would have been nice if there was some sort of translator, but they did pretty good just with the different languages. And I'm willing to bet, I don't know about RJ, he's a smart guy too, but I'm willing to bet Suzuki's been over in the U.S. long enough where he was probably, he knew some of the shit RJ was saying, I'm sure. But, that was the shtick, was just to be the confused and whatever. I dove into the comments, and somebody had noted that Suzuki was just kind of saying, like, does this guy ever shut up? What's he talking about? I have no idea what this guy's talking about. Does he ever shut up? And just kind of stuff like that. But the way they played off each other, I mean, you could pick up on tones. There was a part where, like, Suzuki's said something and RJ's like, no. And Suzuki's like, no? He's like, no. He's like, no? He's like, okay, fine, maybe. Maybe? It was really good. I'm not doing it any kind of justice, but it was hilarious because Suzuki was probably asking him, like, hey, so you like to suck dick? No. No? You sure? Maybe. It was kind of the tone on that one. And then Suzuki with the zinger at the end with the Tony Shalhoub. I just love this guy. I love his look, especially. He's got a very iconic look. He stands out like a sore thumb. He's got he's got the older, grizzled, dirty, hairy, get off my lawn look to him. Always grumpy and mean. He's got the hair all shaved, fucking weird. No knee pads. He's got the Kazanina Ray, and he's the tough guy. He can't work very much now. I know that's where kind of the attacks come from the cornet side of things, is like he's just kind of goes out there and does his basic chops and whatever, but he'll always be fucking amazing to me. He was one of the very first people that stood out to me. I'd always been aware of New Japan since, not since I was a little kid, but certainly for many, many, many years. Probably since the Attitude Era, I've known of a New Japan. But I would say I started watching fairly regularly, and by regularly, I don't mean like every show or anything, but like the bigger pay-per-views and stuff since Wrestle Kingdom 13, all the way back to coming up on 18 now. So is it 18 now? I've been watching for more than 5 years. It was 6. Whatever that, no, it might have even been back all the way back at 10. Whatever the first one that Jim Ross was going to be a part of, that's what made me. Jim Ross was going to go over there. And then after that, it was, they had the Jerichos that went over there. They had, I'm blanking off the top of my head some of the other bigger iconic matches that they've had. Naito's storyline really hooked me. I got hooked on Naito. I still think the story where he was the Intercontinental Champion was one of the coolest things I've seen in wrestling. He would like throw it on the ground because he felt unappreciated or betrayed, or he wasn't like the guy. He was let down by the company. So now he has no care for the company. He's going to throw it back in their face. He has no respect for it, no honor. So yeah, he's the Intercontinental Champion, but he's going to drag it on the ground. He's going to throw it down. He's going to deliberately just fuck it all up. It was beautiful. It was brilliant. And they need to adapt that to an American, So Naito stuck out to me. Obviously, Kenny Omega was. I remember the first New Japan show I saw. Kenny Omega was the cleaner Kenny. and he looked Razor Ramon-esque. He had like the circle glasses and the curly hair with the little thing. He even had a toothpick in his mouth. He was very much Razor Ramon-esque, but he had like the Terminator shtick to him too a little bit. The do-do-do-do-do. You know, that was his thing too back then. But he caught my eye because he was good, and there was a charisma to him. And, you know, and just to watch his growth, his rise, the Tanahashi kind of stepping down and Okada stepping up, and man, I don't know. It's been fun. But the one true, like, that motherfucker right there has always been Minoru Suzuki. I just love me Suzuki. I love everything about him. I love his look, especially. So iconic. They need to make a Funko Pop doll out of this guy. I just got a crush on him. And he's a handsome guy, too. You ever seen him like in his street clothes and shit? He knows how to dress. RJ mentioned that he's got a good sense of fashion in this interview. It's true. He's a pimp, man. He's a pimp. The murder grandpa. He's my dude. Big time. But what are your thoughts? Are you in the Cornette camp? Do you think he's like, who's this old Japanese guy that can't even walk and does shitty stuff in my ring? Get him out of here. Or are you like, murder grandpa, Japanese legend, iconic. What are your thoughts? Leave them down in the comments below and sing it along with me. Kazaninare. That's it, y'all. We made it through another show. Episode 84. We are officially longer running than Nitro's fucking streak over Raw. And so that is a plus. I know I've been off for a while. I addressed it at the beginning of the show. But if you are, still here with me now at the end, thank you. I appreciate you hanging out. Look, man, I'm never going to dip out on you. But like I said, if I need a break, I'm going to take it because it's not worth... You know what I mean? Like, I love this show, and I don't want it to become a chore. So, it wasn't that I didn't feel burnt out at the time because once you're in the routine, it's routine. It's part of like you wake up, you brush your teeth, you take your shower, you record the pro wrestling podcast, you edit it all day, you upload it, you cut it, you look for new clips. It's a habit. Once I took that week off, it was kind of like, it's nice to. And I did work on other shit. I got my book is out in hardcover now. So I haven't plugged it in a while, but I will plug it now. The Gathering, a bold journey into the belly of the Juggalo underworld. Written by me about going to the Gathering of the Juggalos Music Festival, hating it, and all kinds of chaos and drug debauchery ensues. That is now in hardcover, along with the previous paperback. Audible on audio and Audible and Kindle digital e-reader. Follow me, follow, subscribe at Seth Grimes Media, Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. I'll be getting the shorts back, getting in that routine again. And look, also because you're my endies, I'll just say here, there's something to be said for meds too. I recently took some new meds, and I think they're kind of creating a little bit of a apathy, a little bit of it's fine to sit on the couch and, play some video games and meh. So there's something to be said for that too. But I'm here with you guys. I'm not letting you down. I appreciate you hanging out, but sometimes you just need a break. So I'm here, back at it. Episode 84 in the can. We will catch you next week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast. I'll see it up close. It's not smashed or anything. It's just so it's like I broke like the tendon on the top of it. It's called mallet finger. And what it does is it droops. So it's like a droopy finger. Only at this knuckle though. So this one would be straight, and then the tip. It doesn't stay up. It'll droop down worse than this. It's nasty. So you got to keep it straight and up for 8 weeks. Going out of my mind. Much love, y'all.